In a cave at the edge of the known world, a hero is creeping forward in the dark. He will not look up. He cannot. Around him stand the bodies of men who came before him, every one of them turned to solid stone, frozen in the exact instant they made the mistake he is so desperate to avoid. He moves toward the sleeping shape at the center of the cavern, watching it only in the polished mirror of his shield. Because to look at her directly, even for a heartbeat, is to die. This is the monster Medusa, but almost everything you think you know about her is wrong, and the real story is far darker than the monster. To understand her, we have to go back, long before the serpents and the stone. Back to when Medusa was simply a young woman who had given her entire life to the gods. She was a priestess in the temple of Athena, goddess of wisdom and war. Her days were prayer, her vow was purity, and she was, by every account that survives, extraordinarily beautiful. The poet Ovid tells us her hair was her glory, so striking that admirers came from across Greece just to look upon her. She was devoted, she was untouched, and she believed with all her heart that the temple was the one place in the world where she would always be safe. And then the sea came for her. Poseidon, god of the ocean, brother of Zeus, second only to him in power. He saw Medusa and he decided he would have her. There was no courtship, there was no consent. On the cold marble of Athena's own altar in the holiest place she knew, the god took Medusa by force. Hesiod, one of the oldest Greek poets, sets the scene almost gently, in a soft meadow among spring flowers, as if to soften what it was. But the oldest sources are clear about what happened. A mortal woman was violated by a god, in a temple, with no one to hear her, and no power on earth that could have stopped him. When it was over, Medusa was left broken among the sacred fires, a victim in the one place she had trusted. And here the myth does something that has haunted readers for 2,000 years. Athena discovers what has happened in her temple, and her fury is absolute, but it does not fall on Poseidon. A god cannot be punished by another god, not for this. So instead, the goddess of wisdom turns her rage on the only one left within reach. The girl, Medusa, would be punished. Not for a crime she committed, but for a crime committed against her. Punished for her own violation. The punishment was monstrous, and it was precise. Athena reached for the one thing the world had prized in Medusa, her beauty, and turned it into horror. Her famous hair writhed and thickened into a crown of living serpents, hissing and coiling around a face that men had once crossed nations to admire. And then came the cruelest part. From this moment, any living man who looked Medusa in the eyes would turn, instantly and forever, to cold grey stone. The goddess had not just disfigured her, she had made it impossible for Medusa to ever be looked upon with love again. Every gaze was now a death sentence. She was utterly, permanently alone. Cast out, Medusa fled to the very edge of the world, to a barren coast beyond the reach of men, where her sisters the Gorgons took her in. But the woman who arrived was not the woman who had left. The devoted priestess was gone. In her place was something the Greeks would learn to fear and to name, a monster. She could never again look upon another living soul without destroying it. Think about that loneliness. The single thing every human being needs to be seen, had become the one thing she could never survive. She did not choose to be a killer. The gods made her into one, and then left her alone at the end of the earth to become it. To understand how a goddess could be this cruel, you have to understand the world she ruled. This was an age when the gods walked openly among mortals, and their pride was law. Human life in their eyes was a small thing, easily broken to settle a slight or soothe an ego. The Greeks did not tell these stories to comfort themselves. They told them to explain a terrifying truth they lived with every day, that the powers governing the universe were not just. That you could do everything right, keep every vow, and still be destroyed, simply for being beautiful in the wrong god's temple at the wrong moment. Medusa was their warning, and the world had not finished with her yet. Over the years they came for her, heroes hungry for glory, hunters seeking an impossible trophy, soldiers sent by frightened kings who wanted the monster's head on a wall. None of them returned. One by one they crept into her lair, and one by one they made the same fatal mistake. They looked. Her cave slowly filled with their bodies, not buried but standing, a silent garden of statues, each man frozen forever in the exact instant he met her eyes. Some still reaching for a weapon, some with their faces twisted in the dawning horror of understanding, a fraction of a second too late. Far across the sea, a young man named Perseus was about to be handed an impossible death. His mother had caught the eye of a cruel king named Polydectes. The king wanted her, but the boy stood in his way. So Polydectes devised a trap dressed as a celebration. He demanded a gift from every man in the kingdom, knowing Perseus, poor and proud, had nothing to give. Cornered and humiliated, the young man made a reckless boast. He would bring the king something no one else could. The head of the Gorgon Medusa. The king smiled. It was exactly what he wanted. He had just sent his rival to die. But Perseus was not as alone as the king believed. He was a son of Zeus, and the gods had their own plans. Hermes, the messenger, came to him with a curved blade that could cut through anything. He was sent to the Graeae, 3 ancient sisters who shared a single eye between them, and by stealing it he forced them to reveal a secret path. From the nymphs at the world's end, he was given 3 gifts: winged sandals to fly, a cap of darkness to vanish from sight, and a special pouch to safely carry what he was hunting. And then Athena herself appeared. The same goddess who had cursed Medusa now armed the man who would kill her, with a shield polished to a perfect, flawless mirror. Perseus understood the trick at the heart of his task. To look at Medusa was to die, so he resolved never to look at her at all. Invisible beneath the cap of darkness, he flew to the edge of the world and entered her lair. And there he hunted her the only way a man could survive, backwards, watching only her reflection in the mirrored shield. He crept between the frozen statues of everyone who had failed before him, their stone faces a warning at every step. Hunting a monster through a mirror, while she slept, unaware, among the ruins of all the men who had come to kill her. He found her sleeping, and in that moment, guided only by the reflection, his eyes turned away. Perseus raised the blade and struck. A single, clean stroke. The serpents fell still. The priestess who had been made a monster, who had been violated, cursed, exiled, and hunted, was finally dead. But here the myth turned strange and beautiful. From the blood of her severed neck, 2 creatures sprang into being. Chrysaor, a giant wielding a golden sword, and Pegasus, the magnificent winged horse. Children, some say, of her and Poseidon, born only in the instant of her death. Even at her end, Medusa was creating life. The monster gave the world one of its most beautiful legends. And now comes the part the stories rarely dwell on. Death did not end Medusa's power, even severed, even lifeless. The head still turned all who looked upon it to stone. Perseus had not killed a monster and ended a threat. He had claimed the single deadliest weapon in the ancient world, and he carried it away in the pouch the nymphs had given him, careful never to glance inside. The face that had been cursed as too horrible to look upon had become, in death, an instrument of absolute power. And on his long journey home, Perseus would use it again, and again, and again. He turned the Titan Atlas into a mountain of stone. When he found the princess Andromeda chained to a rock as a sacrifice to a sea monster, he raised the head and turned the beast to stone in the surf and won her hand. And when at last he returned to the cruel King Polydectes, who had never expected to see him alive, Perseus walked into the throne room and lifted the head before the entire mocking court, in a single instant. The king and all his men were frozen into a hall of statues, a perfect, silent monument to their own cruelty. The trap the king had set had closed, at last, on him. And in the end, the weapon returned to where the curse began. Perseus gave the head of Medusa to Athena, the very goddess who had transformed her. And Athena fixed that face, the serpents, the terrible gaze, to the center of her shield, the aegis, and carried it into every battle she ever fought afterward. Think about the full circle of it. The goddess cursed a girl out of rage. That curse made her deadly. That deadliness made her a trophy. And that trophy became the goddess's own emblem of worn forever on her breast. The victim had become the protector of the one who destroyed her. So remember her story, not as the monster the gods made her, but as the woman they destroyed and then used. Punished for a crime done to her, made hideous for beauty she never weaponized, feared for a face she never chose. For centuries she was painted as the villain, the horror at the edge of the map, but look closely and you find something else entirely. A young woman betrayed by the powerful, blamed for her own suffering, and turned into a weapon by the very ones who wronged her. Medusa was never the villain of this myth. She was its first and its greatest victim, and maybe that is the part they never really wanted you to see. If her story moved you, subscribe, because there are far older and far darker tales still waiting to be told.